How's it going, folks? Daniel with Driving and Dragons here, back with the second installment, looking at Guildmaster Dan and the 10-year-old now videos of D&D alignment. Alignment done right. Just a fun little way to cross over to my series, D&D Reacts, and the alignment series, but also a fun way to get somebody who is very adjacent to the concepts that I've been putting out here, somebody who is very, very close to correct on most fronts when it comes to alignment, to give you just another step closer to some of the common misconceptions and arguments that happen with alignment, and showing you how they relate back to the other alignment videos that I've done in our continuing exploration of that series and of that concept in tabletop role-playing games. While you're here, remember, Corvid Codex, folks. Volume 1 is out. Volume 2 is July 1st of 2026. We're going to keep putting them out there. We're going to keep trying to build something that is better. Building something from within the TTRPG community that brings back the baby that we threw out with the bathwater when we kind of rebelled against formula fantasy. Going back and looking at the old pulps and saying, yeah, there was a lot of stuff there that was cheap entertainment, but there was also a lot of tremendous good in there that needs to be revived and brought back and presented, and stories written that way. So in the description, you're going to find the links to the $5 ebook and the $14 or the $14.99 paperback. Pick up a copy. If you like what I do here on the channel, my Patreon is there, as is the channel memberships and the super chat button. All that stuff is going to dump directly into what we do here, and trying to restore some old cars and give back to the community and really just have a good time exploring the hobby that we all love. If you don't have that spare change at the time to throw towards a membership or Patreon or a super chat or anything of that nature, you're just as welcome here as anybody else. I'm still glad to have you here. It's free to hit that hype button, to hit the like button, to subscribe to the channel, and to share this video with some of your friends to generate more discussion and to help us grow. And right down there in the comments section, guys, join the conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's have some discussions about these topics, because this is the kind of thing that builds our hobby, that builds understanding. And really, when it comes to the aspiring game designer, it builds their knowledge base to help them make better games for all of us, because they get a little piece from me, and they get a little piece from OGGM, and they get a little piece from RPG Pundit, and they get a little piece from Jenny D or Bob Worldbuilder or the Dungeon Dudes or Luke over at DM's Lair, or they get a piece from Professor DM, and all those little things fall in and end up bringing us something new and fresh and exciting that we can all enjoy. So just jump down there, like I said, like, share, subscribe, and let's make this channel just a small piece of the growth of our hobby. So moving forward, old Guildmaster Dan is about to talk about the chaotic evil alignment in Dungeons and Dragons. He said that this is what most people see as the easiest. I do believe that a lot of people, actually, I think most people see chaotic neutral as the easiest, which is ironic because it's legitimately the most difficult, in my opinion, at least the most difficult to get right. Chaotic evil is one that a lot of people pigeonhole wrongly into what it is, and they think it's super easy to play because you just run around and be stupid all the time. And that's not at all accurate. But let's see what old Dan has to say. I have actually seen this one, but I've only seen it once, and it's been a while. So this is pretty close to a fresh reaction. But let's see what we get. Did you guys notice that one of these had Gul Dukat as a chaotic evil character? That ought to show you how bad some of these charts are.
Most gamers consider chaotic evil to be the easiest alignment to pin down. They view characters of this alignment as your stereotypical villains. These are the guys that are insane, uncaring, malevolent, and just do evil for evil's sake. Though, yes, these are traits that accurately describe a chaotic evil character, the alignment is more diverse than that.
Doesn't really describe it. I mean, I guess it can in a way. They're definitely not just doing evil for evil's sake. They're doing evil for their own sake. But as we stated, evil is selfish. So doing things only for your own sake is kind of evil. But that's more of a descriptor of neutral evil than it is chaotic evil. Chaotic evil is a lot less refined than that. And really, more than anything, chaotic evil is defined by immediacy and disregard for society as well as disregard for others. Counterbalanced by, like, say, lawful evil, where they're still entirely focused on themselves over others, but they see protecting the system as a better way to get what they want.
To recall our new terminology, we can gain some insight to the true nature of the alignment by reclassifying it as unprincipled selfish. This new classification means that the above description does fit into the alignment, but not because the alignment is defined by maliciousness. Rather, it is the character's sadism that comes from his or her own selfishness. Chaotic evil characters are defined by their personal freedom and the fulfillment of their desires at any cost.
That is absolutely accurate. I mean, not necessarily at any cost, but the one thing he pointed out is that their sadism is defined by their willingness to, their sadism is actually a function of their chaotic evil nature. Sadism is a hyper pure and hyper defined, like a hyper literal version of what it means to be chaotic evil. Because what is sadism? Sadism means that I gain pleasure from hurting others. It is literally putting damage to other people subservient directly to my own wants and desires, which is the functional definition of evil. Sadism is all evil, not just chaotic. Chaotic is sadism in the fact that I'm going to hurt you now because I'm not going to wait for a better version. I'm not going to set up a situation where I can hurt you again and again and again and again at the cost of delaying my instant gratification.
They are not tied down by rules, laws, or morals. Their actions are defined by their drive to get what they want. How they go about doing this depends on the person. For each of the alignments, I will present 2 example characters for us to look at and compare. One will be what is typically expected of the alignment, while the other would normally be considered atypical.
Expect a few comic book characters.
Our first example is one that no one will be surprised to see here.
This ought to be fun because my comic book knowledge is reasonably limited, but I do like the fact that he's going to put this is what people normally think versus this is when you might not normally think. Let's see how they come out.
DC Comics, The Joker. The Clown Prince of Gotham is an anarchist psychopath with a penchant for torture, erratic behavior, and twisted humor. He just wants to watch the world burn.
All right, so and this is going to be one of the difficulties with comic book characters, because I do know this much. The biggest problem with a lot of your classic comic book characters is that they tend to change a lot over time. For instance, Batman has been, Batman used to swing in the Silver Age back in the 20s and 30s. Batman would swing into a criminal's room with a Tommy gun and mow him down. And then later, the Batman does not kill. The Batman does not kill. It's like, and hell, Frank Miller Batman in the 80s is like, he'd sure as hell kill. So they do change a bit. The Joker, ironically, has not changed much over the years, at least not in the core philosophy of his character. I am going to say this, though. I almost consider him not chaotic evil. And I'll tell you why. So he is kind of the epitome of chaotic evil in terms of especially surface level. However, his mind is so, like, as he said, he's psychotic. That system is so broken that it's almost as if he is passed beyond being a regular sentient human being and been devolved into just a personification of impulse. Because the Joker has more than once sabotaged his own stuff for reasons. And I do mean that like kind of in a laughable way of for reasons, because he didn't really have good reasons for them. And they weren't even necessarily selfish reasons. He just did them. And in that regard, it's almost like, and this is a question that I've presented before. I think I presented it in my videos. If not, then this is a good time to bring it up. I almost think that a character that truly is mentally compromised has to be removed from the alignment spectrum. Because if your brain has been short-circuited to the point that it no longer functions properly, do you really have the necessary agency to function within an alignment, or are you just a different variety of hyper-intelligent animal that acts on some kind of bizarre, busted impulse? It's almost like saying that a Toyota Camry is a bad car because the example of a Toyota Camry that you pick out is one that has had 3 of the 4 cylinders removed and has one of the valves broken on that cylinder and the timing intentionally set wrong. You can't really say a Toyota Camry is a bad car when you have one that has been broken to the point that no car could be a good car.
There, I said it. He is without a doubt a malevolent entity that epitomizes evil. The Joker has a need to harm and pervert those around him. He's fully aware that society views these as unforgivable actions and derives pleasure from this. The fact that he chooses to pursue his desire for mayhem at the expense of others is what makes him evil. What makes him chaotic is that, depending upon who's writing him, there's no principle behind his actions. He doesn't believe he's doing good or that he can only harm certain types of people. He simply does what he wants because he enjoys it. The Joker is a dark equalizer. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, who you worship, what social class you are, or what your alignment is. All that matters is that your suffering makes him laugh. He is such a paragon of evil that some people forget that there's more than one flavor of selfishness. So who can we...
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad point when he's talking about the Joker there. And the only place that I would even push back a little bit on what he said about him is that, is he fully aware? Is he? I think on the surface, he's fully aware. I think you could prove that he does, in fact, know what he's doing is at least seen as wrong. But does his brain actually calculate it that way anymore? Does it really understand that beyond the, I know these people feel it that way? That's the only thing you can really say about the Joker. And more so, he's not just chaotic because he's not principled and he has no driving force or he only hurts certain people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's also chaotic in the fact that he operates in the moment. It has there's no long-term thinking to the Joker. Even he sabotages his own plans numerous times. And this is from my limited understanding of comic books and the other media surrounding him. He's blown up his own plans before simply for a laugh because what's happening in the moment's more important. And that's what makes him chaotic.
Compare him to that can help inform us on the varied forms of evil. Why don't we go ahead and pick another character who's typically considered a paragon, though of the wrong alignment? Why don't we go ahead and pick Deadpool? What's that? Do I hear the searing rage of Deadpool fans everywhere? Well, hopefully the sharpening of their axes isn't loud enough to drown out my explanation for why.
He's right. Only an idiot or a moral relativist who can't understand the fact that there is, just because you agree with him or he makes you laugh does not change the behavior. Deadpool is most definitely a chaotic evil character, at least in the portrayals I've seen of him. He does things for selfish reasons. He does, even if he does the right thing or he takes care of his friend, he takes care of his friend because it's his friend. And it's almost like it's an insult that you went after something he cares about.
They're mistaken about his alignment. Deadpool is generally considered the internet's paragon of chaotic neutral. He exists to follow his whims in an often comedic and fourth wall breaking manner. These whims often have him killing good and bad guys alike for the sake of money, women, or impulse. So if he can help out the good guys, how can he be considered evil? Let me answer that with a question. Who else do you know that also kills bad and good guys alike? It is true that Deadpool is an epitome of chaos, of being unprincipled. He is a creature of impulse who cares nothing for rules. However, he also cares nothing for others. While his antics are often played out for comedic effect, it is clear that Deadpool is only motivated by three things: money, sex, and fun. He doesn't really care what happens to other people so long as he gets one of these three things. The best example of this can be seen in the Deadpool video game from High Moon Studios.
Spoilers, by the way.
During a large portion of the game, Deadpool is cutting through armies of soldiers and evil mutants in order to rescue Rogue.
Does anybody here feel old by the fact that he just issued a spoiler warning for PS3 games?
The reason for his attempted rescue, which he makes abundantly clear to the player, is that he hopes to be rewarded for said rescue with sex. Now, plays on the damsel in distress trope in video games aside, Deadpool as a character doesn't actually care that Rogue is in danger. He only cares that she might be willing to have sex with him. If Rogue were to die before he arrived, Deadpool would lament his loss of sex and then immediately pursue his next whim, probably his love of violence. Deadpool is evil because he takes childlike selfishness to the extreme. What prevents him from being neutral is his own apathy for how his actions affect others. Both Deadpool and the Joker are causeless men, driven by...
He's 100% right there when he talks about Deadpool. No question about it. That is a succinct definition of why Deadpool would be chaotic evil and not chaotic neutral or anything else. He is utterly selfish. Utterly selfish. And this is where the evil comes in versus the neutral. It's not just that he's apathetic towards the impact on others. He is very much willing to harm others in order to get what he wants for himself. And that really is kind of the distinction between chaotic evil and chaotic neutral. Chaotic neutral does not cross into the realm of I am willing to hurt others for anything that I want. And it's almost a level of scale. Chaotic neutral will hurt somebody for something that they want, but there has to be a certain balance there. I get something really good, the hurt is really minor. I get something pretty good, the hurt is pretty bad, but not too terrible. Chaotic evil is I get what I want and I don't care. I get a stick of bubble gum, I wipe out your entire family. They don't care about the scale or the level of harm. And then with chaotic, they're not even thinking about the future, even their own.
Their own desire to get what they want, regardless of the expense to others. They are unprincipled selfish, they are chaotic evil. Now, I know a lot of people are going to want me to clarify what chaotic neutral is if it's not Deadpool. However, I think before we can get to that, we should examine the opposite extreme first. So next time, we're going to take a look at chaotic good.
Okay, so is chaotic good the other opposite extreme? I would think lawful good is the opposite extreme, wouldn't you? And that's where I go to. At least that's the opposite on both scales. But, his videos, he gets to say what he wants to on that. I'm actually relatively interested in taking a look at his chaotic good. What'd you guys think? Tell me down in the comment section below. Let's have a discussion about it. And hey, remember, if you're a member, you're already getting to see the Chaotic Good video because you would have gotten it when this one went live. If you're not a member, you're going to have to wait a few days. Anyway, see you guys next time. Thanks for coming out.